You know, sometimes in science, the most incredible discoveries are the ones you aren't even looking for. Astronomers were just scanning the cosmos, and they found something that, well, it just shouldn't be there. We're talking about an invisible monster, on the loose, tearing a wound across the fabric of space itself. So let's get into it. This is a cosmic detective story that starts with what looked like a simple glitch.
Right, so this whole thing was a complete accident. An astronomer named Peter von Dockum was looking at a Hubble image and just happened to spot this bizarre, perfectly straight line. Now, his first thought? It had to be a mistake. A cosmic ray zapping the camera sensor, something like that. But he checked, he cleaned up the image, and the line was still there. It was real.
And suddenly, this glitch became a massive puzzle. Because this streak, it isn't just a faint trail of light. No, it's a colossal line of brand new stars, stretching across a distance so vast, it kind of makes our own galaxy look tiny. So what in the universe could possibly have the power to do that?
Well, the leading theory is every bit as spectacular as the image itself. Scientists propose that what we're seeing here is the wake of a runaway supermassive black hole, a monster that got violently kicked out of its home galaxy and is now just rampaging through deep space.
So just how massive are we talking? The main suspect here weighs in at an estimated 20 million times the mass of our sun. Just try to wrap your head around that for a second. That is an almost unimaginable amount of gravity, and it's on the move. And its trail, just as mind-bending. It's a wake of stars that's 200,000 light-years long. To put that in perspective for you, the entire diameter of our own Milky Way galaxy is only about half that. This thing has literally painted a streak across the cosmos twice the size of our home.
And its speed is just staggering. It's blazing along at an estimated 1,600 kilometers per second. That's a cosmic cannonball traveling at more than 3.5 million miles per hour. And this really drives home just how fast that is. An Apollo mission rate, it took 3 days to get to the moon. This black hole would make that same trip in the time it takes you to check your email. Just 14 minutes. It's almost impossibly fast.
Now, here's a really crucial point. You might be picturing this thing as a cosmic Pac-Man, just gobbling up stars as it goes. But it's actually moving way too fast for that. Instead, it's plowing through the super thin gas that exists between galaxies, creating this massive shockwave that compresses the gas and triggers a huge burst of star formation right behind it.
Okay, so this of course leads to the next giant question. A supermassive black hole is supposed to be the gravitational anchor of its galaxy. So how in the world do you generate enough force to unmoor the very heart of a galaxy and just fling it into space?
Well, the theory involves a chaotic game of what you might call galactic billiards. You know the saying, two's company, three's a crowd? Well, when it comes to supermassive black holes, a crowd leads to absolute chaos.
So here's how scientists think it all went down. First, you get two galaxies that merge. Their huge central black holes fall into orbit around each other, like a binary pair. But then, a third galaxy comes into the mix, bringing its own black hole to the party. The resulting three-body dance is totally unstable, and in a wild exchange of momentum, one of those black holes gets shot out like a cannonball into intergalactic space.
Now look, a claim this extraordinary needs some seriously extraordinary evidence. The Hubble discovery was incredible, but to really put this wild theory to the test, astronomers needed to call in the big guns. They needed the James Webb Space Telescope.
So they aimed JWST right at that bright knot at the very tip of the streak, the exact spot where the runaway black hole should be, where the shock wave should be at its most intense. They were hunting for the smoking gun.
And at first, it really looked like they'd found it. The initial data from Webb was spectacular. The team reported they saw a sharp shock front, with gas moving in a way that was perfectly consistent with a bow shock from a black hole tearing through space at immense speed. It seemed like the case was closed.
But this is where our cosmic detective story takes a really fascinating turn. Because in science, a smoking gun can sometimes look like something else entirely, depending on who's looking at the evidence.
And this, right here, is the scientific process in action. A second team of astronomers downloaded the publicly available data from JWST, ran their own analysis, and they proposed a much simpler, though, let's be honest, a far less dramatic explanation.
Their conclusion? This isn't a black hole's wake at all. Instead, it might be a very rare kind of galaxy, sometimes called a super-thin galaxy, that we just so happen to be seeing perfectly edge-on, an optical illusion that makes it look like a thin line.
So the whole debate really boils down to the nature of that one bright nut. Is it a violent shockwave from a runaway monster, or is it just a bright, normal star-forming region inside a very distant, skinny galaxy? It's the same light, the same data, but two vastly different stories.
So where does this leave us? Well, it leaves us with a fantastic scientific mystery that actually reveals as much about how science works as it does about the universe itself. The jury is still out, and that's what pushes astronomy forward.
So here's the bottom line. We're either looking at something absolutely groundbreaking that's never been seen before, or it's a really remarkable cosmic coincidence. And figuring out which one it is actually matters. Proving the runaway black hole theory would change our understanding of how galaxies evolve. But either way, it's just a perfect example of science in action. Bold ideas and vigorous debate, all based on the same set of facts.
And let's not forget the human side of this. This entire field-energizing debate didn't start because someone was hunting for a runaway black hole. It started because one astronomer noticed a weird little streak on an image he was using for something else entirely. It's a great reminder that sometimes the universe just shows you things you weren't even looking for. So, what are we really looking at here? Is it the aftermath of a violent game of cosmic billiards that sent a monster careening through space? Or is it a trick of perspective, a galactic imposter posing as something far more terrifying? For now, we don't know for sure. And that's probably the most exciting part. The hunt for the truth is on.